have the greatest job in the world, and that's working with dogs.
Best in Show winner is the French Bulldog.
Winston won the National Dog Show. It was amazing. It was exciting. And to have a dog to be #1 dog in this country, you have to have great nutrition. And I always fed Pro Plan. Just like us, when we eat well, we feel good. And I just love that food and what it's done all these years to all the dogs I've bred and all the dogs I've shown.
Welcome to Pure Dog Talk. I am your host, Laura Reeves, and this is a very cool interview. I try to do one of these at least every year after the AKC National Championship, and we talk to some of the AKC Breeder of the Year nominees. And this year, our nominee that we're going to talk to is Liz Hansen, who was nominated for the Breeder of the Year for the working group for her Sketchbook Standard Schnauzers. And I've known Liz for years and years and years, and I'm really excited for her and to get to talk to her today. So welcome, Liz.
Thank you.
How you doing today? It's cold there in Missouri, yeah?
It is cold here in Missouri, a big 10 degrees outside. It was 0 when I got up. So the dogs think it's great because there's snow to play in. The chickens don't think it's great.
The humans think it's crappy.
Yeah.
So give us a little, I mean, this is a very cool award. And so I would love for you to talk a little bit, we call it the 411, right? Your background, your history in the sport. I know that you do some really important work at the University of Missouri. So let's talk about all that for a little bit.
Okay, so I grew up with mostly horses. My sister and I did horses together when we were kids, and when I was old enough to drive, my art teacher in high school said she had a dog, her cousin's dog or somebody needed a new home. So I got my first dog because I could drive it to obedience school. Mom and Dad gave in. And so that was Cleo, sweet Cleo, the English Springer Spaniel. And I just happened to have, my grandmother had a neighbor who had a Springer Spaniel, and that was Francie Nelson from Chuzzlewit Standard English Springers. And so I got to know, through her, I got to know the good people in Springers, and so that was my first exposure to show dogs. And while we were going to the doggy school with Cleo, my sister always hung along with me. It turns out that my high school chemistry teacher's wife trained her dog there, which was a weird coincidence. And she had a standard schnauzer named Frida. And Frida was the top obedient standard schnauzer in the country 8 years in a row, which I don't think anybody will ever be able to crack that one.
Oh my God.
And she had puppies, and somehow my sister and I convinced our parents that since there were 2 of us, we needed 2 dogs.
Yes.
So Sharon Hodgins would, she chose her dog from the litter, and then we chose the one we wanted. And the deal was that she'd get a puppy back at some point, and she trusted 2 teenagers with a really awesome dog.
Wow.
So that became the foundation for Sketchbook Standard Schnauzers. Everybody goes back to Gretel, which was that dog. And from her first litter, we had 4 champions and a group placing dog.
Oh my gosh.
And and from my Springer, my show Springer that I got through Francie, I had we bred her 3 different heat cycles. This dog, she finished like no time flat. All the things that can go wrong with a Springer were good with her. We bred her 3 heat cycles. She finally had 1 puppy who had a parrot mouth and 1 testicle.
Oh, no.
So I was like, I don't need to pound my head on the wall too much longer. I think I'm supposed to have standard schnauzers. So that's where we started with that. And the kennel name came because I've always drawn things from the time I was a little kid. Everything got drawn, and I was always doodling and just doing artsy stuff. I have an aunt who's a fabulous painter. She was a painter and a potter, and so it's there in the family. But it's just something I've always done. And when I had to decide what to do, it was sort of between vet school and what else can I do with my life, and I had a number of interests, and I found, with a little help from my grandma actually, that there was such a thing as scientific illustration, and so I could do both the things I loved most, which is science and art. And so I did that's where my degree is, from the University of Minnesota. I did a scientific illustration major. And, sketchbook came just sort of naturally from that, because these are little sketches I make. Each little puppy is another little sketch. And it just seemed like the perfect one to do.
I
So,
love that
um,
analogy, actually. I think that's really beautiful, Liz. I love that.
yeah, yeah. And so I did finally get a job working, using that degree. I worked for the Center for American Archaeology for 13 years as their illustrator and photographer. And one of the things there that really was exciting to see was, when we had to do some excavations and stuff in some of these cemeteries that were 5,000 or 10,000 years old, they had dog burials in them. And so, I got to draw some of those, and do some reconstructions and things like that. But and the dogs were buried with the kids and the women, not with the men. So that was always sort of interesting. But that's there's a long history of dogs there too, and I found that really exciting. And then about it's almost 26 years ago. Um, I Another breeder and I ran into a problem with, we had epilepsy show up in our lines that were related, and went looking for somebody to help us with that, keep the good and get rid of this problem.
Right.
And we were at a show in Columbia, Missouri, and went and talked to Gary Johnson at the university. And after about a year of bringing him samples and getting other clubs involved and helping to write grants and all this kind of stuff, he said, you just need to come work for me.
Oh
So
my
I
God.
I changed jobs over epilepsy. Knock on wood, haven't seen any for 30 years now. Um, by making very careful choices. We haven't solved that one yet, but thanks to the brilliance of Gary Johnson, we've got about 50 different mutations. It might be more than that now, that we've discovered here at Mizzou and are being used by dog breeders all over the world. The big one was degenerative myelopathy. That was our discovery. And pretty much any lab that does DNA work is running that test. Um, but we also found dilated cardiomyopathy that's in standard schnauzers. Unfortunately, one of my dogs volunteered for that, but it was a problem that was popping up from time to time in the breed, and I was in a position where I could um, do something about it. So we did, and we found that one. So it's it's been a really good. I think it was a good choice by Dr. Johnson, because being involved in the dog world as I have been, I know what the breeders' concerns are, and I can bring those to the research team. And I have enough science background that I understand the science, and I'm used to, through the illustration, I learned how do I take a complicated scientific
Mm.
subject and distill it down into something that somebody that's a layperson can understand, without talking down to anybody, but
Right.
just make it understandable. And this is more in words, and the other was more in pictures, but they're both kind of taking the science and bringing it to where it can be understood by people. So
That
it's been pretty amazing to work here.
that is just such an awesome story. I mean, I knew your background working there at Mizzou, but I didn't realize the whole backstory. That is so incredible. So,
Yeah.
over the course of time, Sketchbook Standard Schnauzers have been quite successful. Talk us through a couple of your top dogs.
So we have had a good amount of success, and I think a lot of the success has been hard work on each owner's behalf or on their own doing. But I like to coach the people that get my dogs. We've got over 200 champions, and most of those are over 160 standard Schnauzer champions. I also have the cards. So,
Right, right.
um, and uh, um, and well over 250 performance titles on the standard Schnauzers, and that's not all me. That's good people that have. I gave them a good dog, and just like my sister and I got a great dog to start with, I try to coach people along. So there's been some of that. Probably the big winner was that we've had has been Caesar,
Mhm.
and that was actually Scarlight's Caesar. He was born in Sweden. His mother is a dog I exported to Sweden when she was a puppy
Okay.
and cried all the way to the airport because I knew I'd never see her again. I sent two puppies over there to Sweden. And so and that started the foundation bitch for Scarlight over in Sweden. And so Pia was going to breed Caesar's mother. And I said, if you've got a male puppy that's got these qualities, doesn't have these faults, send him on over. So he came on over here. I didn't get to see him in person until he was here. And the two of us, I'm a firm believer in owner handling, and I think that's how you learn your breed. That's how you know your dog. And if you can't understand the faults and the virtues and learn how to emphasize those virtues and hide those faults, that's just the best way to really know your dog in and out. And so he was a really great dog. He finished by the time he was 9 months old. He went reserve once. Other than that, he took his points all the time. And he started picking up group placements here and there. And he wound up, the two of us at Westminster, we won 4 years in a row, including the year that I broke my arm. Um, in the big snow, I'm famous for falling down in the snow outside of Madison Square Garden and breaking my arm.
I was
But
there.
yeah, yeah. So he won there 4 years. He won the national specialty. He was number 14 working dog in the country one of the years. Um, well, one year we had like 25,000 dogs defeated.
Wow.
And that was just me getting in the car and driving, and a very tolerant boss at the time saying, okay, you can be gone another Friday and another Monday or whatever. Um, but he was a really great dog and a great temperament. I know if I had sent him out with a handler, several handlers begged me for
I'm
him,
sure.
and they probably could have
Being a
put,
handler, I am sure.
yeah, they probably could have put 100 best in shows on him. With just me, he got three. But if they had done reserve best in show at that time, we would have had a lot of those. He had over 50 group ones, and he was something else. And he also was the first standard Schnauzer to go best in show with performance titles on him already.
Oh, wow.
He had a novice agility title and a tracking dog title. And being crazy dog person with the tracking title, we were in somewhere in Nebraska on a frosty morning and got his tracking title. And I hopped in the car and drove to Des Moines. And in time to make ring time, and he won the breed there later that day. Fortunately, we had an afternoon ring time, and we could do both of those. So it's
Having
it's a
driven
special
from
kind of.
Nebraska to Des Moines, that isn't an insignificant drive.
Right, yeah, yeah. But it takes a special kind of crazy to do that. But when you've got a really great dog, it's what you do. Another one that I'm really proud of is one named Zach. He's Sketchbook Stack the Deck, and he was a grand champion, a group placing dog, and the first high end trial in a herding trial,
Oh, wow.
standard Schnauzer, and the first to get a herding trial championship. So he's
Oh,
the
wow.
first dual champion standard schnauzer. And he lives, actually, he just passed away a couple weeks ago. He lived with a woman who has sheep, and she also has some um, difficulties walking and stuff. So from the time he was a little puppy, he knew his job was to keep mom safe and keep the sheep where they belong. And he was just awesome at working sheep. He was really amazing. But that he could be a group placing dog
Yeah.
as well as
Yeah.
doing his job.
Okay,
um
so
uh, Proud of that.
this is a great question. I actually did not know this. I'm reasonably smart, but I did not know that standard schnauzers competed in herding trials.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of their original jobs. The standard schnauzer is supposed to be they were the German farmers' all-purpose dog. They
Mm,
needed to keep the rats out of the barn and out of the grain. They needed to take the flocks in and out of the field. They keep track of the horses. They take care of the kids. Um, one of their nicknames is Kinderwatcher,
mm,
kid watcher, child
okay.
watcher. So they're really good babysitters. And then when they go to market, they were needed to be small enough to go along on the cart, not take up a lot of room, and then tough enough to guard it while they
Mm,
were there. So, they didn't they could do pretty much anything you needed to do on a German farm. And we didn't really pay a lot of attention to their herding ability for a while, but they're awesome
wow.
on sheep. And the first time, when people started doing some of that, and the first time I've taken my dogs in who'd never seen a sheep before, they knew what to do. They got right to it and got to work at it, whatever.
Crazy.
Actually, Zach's father was one of Caesar's sons, and he's a best in show winning dog and has a herding title.
Wow.
So you get both ends of it, and that's really important to me. Is that there's a lot of smarts in a standard schnauzer,
Mm,
so giving them an outlet for that in a positive direction,
yeah.
because they will think up things to do. You just need to point them in the right direction and work with them as a team, and they're all about it. It's really, I like that smarts. I like that they'll try anything
Mm,
if you're doing it with them and you show them how to do it. So
I love
that's
that.
great.
So
Yeah.
that kind of addresses a little bit, but carry further the just sort of the idea of your breeding philosophy. Like you're really looking for that dual purpose, functional dog. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, their background is they were supposed to be the all-purpose dog. So, a dog that's, I get people that call me and they want a dog to do performance stuff with. They want to do agility or they want to do this. And I said, can we finish it first? Because if they're going to stand up to the rigors of doing agility or doing some of these performance sports, they need to be built right first.
Yes.
And so they'll finish a championship. If they're built right, they're going to finish their championship. And then they can go out and they can do the performance stuff. So, of course, they have to have, to me, that's just a kind of a no brainer, is that they need to have both of those pieces to be a really good standard schnauzer. So it's always been titles at both ends. I really try. I haven't personally been able to do a whole lot of that lately. I've just been too busy to do some of the performance stuff, but I miss it, and
Yeah.
I really do want to get back out herding some. And a number of people are after me to get busy and get out there and do some barn hunt and that. And quite a few of my dogs have done really well in just about any sport of the performance sports. They do great. So.
That's awesome. And so, I mean, you're still actively breeding. I know you also have Berger Picard. Do you have goals still for the standard schnauzers?
Of course,
Well, let's
or
hear
I
them.
would stop. Yeah. So a few years ago, let's see, Pearl 16, about 16, 17 years ago, I added blacks to the mix here, and standard schnauzers can be either pepper salt or black.
Mhm.
And for a lot of years, people had said some of the few people breeding black standards have been, come on, Liz, we need you to breed some blacks. And I didn't want to give up my quality for a color. But it's a color that's been there. And so I was asked to help with grooming a dog, a black dog at a show. And I'd seen him a number of times. Oh, he's a decent dog. And when we got him uncovered from all the hair that was extra, there was a really nice dog there. So I took a couple of my Caesar daughters and bred to him, and that's where I started with some of the blacks. And so that's been, I had judges when I first showed up with a black dog say, "Why are you wasting your time with a black?" And it's been a color that doesn't get any respect in our breed, or doesn't get, you have to be extra good if you're black. And so, I want to keep having some good black dogs out there, of course. I've been showing lately Edie, who's Sketchbook Special Edition. She's been the first in our breed to get a gold grand champion level. None of the other blacks have made that level. Actually, a male has. I think she's the first bitch that's made it to that level. And she's had some really nice puppies, and we're showing some more that have just turned 6 months old from her last litter that'll be out there. So just getting some consistently good blacks out there. I've also got some frozen semen from some of the older dogs, and so I think the breed is not quite as good as it was maybe 20 years ago. I'm a little worried about some of the trends in the breed right now. So being able to go back to some of that, and that we've got frozen, and a few other people have some nice older dogs frozen, bring some of that forward, and hopefully, get the correct fronts back, get some of the substance back, get some of the robustness back, because I think we've gotten a little fancy lately. And fancy is not in our breed standard.
No,
so
it's not mine either.
yeah. So
has there been a
so
best
yeah,
in show black Schnauzer, black standard?
Yes, actually, Bardwood's Blackjack. He was out probably 20 years ago.
Okay.
Maybe a little more than that now. With Brenda Combs, and
Sure.
they did get some best in shows. I think he even won the group at Westminster one year.
Oh, wow.
So, we don't get to win the group at Westminster very often. We've got the lunch bucket dog. We're not the glamour dog in the working group. It's just a good, solid working dog, and we're the little guys. Although we won't be soon.
Pretty soon you're not the end of the line anymore.
Yeah. Yep. So, but I want to keep the dogs multifunctional, look good doing what you're doing. I just, to me, they're just a really good all around dog and ready to do stuff. And I want to see that continue. So.
I love that. And so the Breeder of Year is, it's a big deal.
Amazing.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good dog breeders out there in the world. So speak to what that means to you. You go to Orlando and you accept the prize and all the stuff. So talk about it.
So it's pretty amazing, and I each year when they announce who the group winners are and stuff, I think, well, good for them, congrats, and that'd be nice, but that's not something that'll ever happen to me. And I just kind of, I don't feel like I'm out there pushing my dogs or whatever. I'm just quietly doing what I do and always have done, and it's just really nice that somebody noticed. It's when I found out, I had to sit down for a little while and breathe deeply because that is a big deal, and it's like, wow, it's pretty amazing. So it's just nice to have affirmation that somebody noticed that you're doing good things, and I'm very proud of it, and I'm very humbled by it, because they had a lot of, you're right. There are a lot of other choices that they could have made. So it's really humbling, and I'm just very thankful.
So, final question, when and why? Well, I know sort of when, but what brought you to add the Picards to your program?
Some sort of crazy moon must have happened. I don't know. um,
Oh my god.
yeah. So I actually, it's a little odd. I was looking through a Meet the Breeds photo gallery on the AKC website one time, and I work with a lot of dogs. I've shown dogs a long time,
Mhm.
and so I think I'm pretty good about dog breeds, and including the ones from Europe and stuff like that. I am pretty good about beyond just AKC. And I saw this big-eared, goofy-looking, fuzz-faced dog, and I thought, what the heck is that? And so I started looking at that, and uh, the more I looked into them, I thought, and then I met a couple of them, and I thought, yeah, it'd be kind of fun to have one of those, and especially a breed that's really small numbers. I mean, standard schnauzers we only register about 500 every year, and it's been that from the time I got them 45 or almost 50 years ago,
Okay.
and this is even fewer. And so I started making a few phone calls, and next thing I knew, I had one on a trial basis, quote unquote. And she died of old age. So the trial went well,
Yeah.
and they're not standard schnauzers.
No.
They're a different
They are not.
temperament, huh?
No, they are not.
No, they're not. I mean, it's kind of funny. I tell people the Picards are very French. I mean, they don't hide their emotions. they they are a little bit dramatic, and but very loyal. They love their people dearly. And the standard Schnauzers, they're good Germans. They're tough. They will take whatever, and they got a real work ethic and things like that. So it's a little bit funny, and I hope I don't offend people by saying that, but it is kind of true
I
to
say it
their
about
background.
Spinoni and wire hairs, right? Like German wire hair pointers, right? Very
Yeah.
German, very, like you say, tough, smart,
Bus-
stand up, work ethic. Spinonis are
mhm.
very Italian. They talk with
Yeah.
their hands.
Exactly. Yeah, the Picards, when something upsets them, it's like tragic. It's really sad. But then they get over it, and they're fine. And my schnauzers are kind of like, you got a problem? Too bad. Off we go. Suck it up. Let's go. And but I enjoy both of them. And I mean, but they've both got their pluses and a few minuses, but I enjoy them. And I mean, that's the great thing about dogs, is that there's something there for everybody. I don't have to like every other breed. These are the breeds I chose to live with, and they suit my personality or temperament or whatever. And I'm glad somebody else loves some of the others, because there's a lot of cool breeds out there, but I don't want them.
Well,
So
and I think I tell people this all the time. They're like, "Well, I want this to do that." I'm like, "Okay, pugs were not designed to run marathons, y'all. They were
yeah,
designed to
exactly.
sit on somebody's lap on a chariot. So if you want
Yep,
something to run a marathon, go get something that ran marathons. They're out there. I mean,
something with legs. Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
just that is the
yeah,
beauty of purebred dogs in my world. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun, and like I said, I'm privileged to do dogs for work as well as dogs for fun, and just really glad to be here where I can solve some of the problems for breeders, because I ran into problems, and I'm glad we found a way to solve some of those, and hopefully solve some more. But it's
you're
a
going to
lot of
be my
fun, and
I'm going to be your first call when you guys get epilepsy, right? Like the very first one.
yeah, yeah. Well, we have a renewed initiative on that, because we got better tools, and there's just better ways to do things than we had in the past. But that's when there's about 4 or 5 labs around the world that have been trying this for about 20, 25 years now, and nobody's been able to crack idiopathic epilepsy. It's just a tough nut to crack. But we got better tools, and I'm never giving up on that. So we'll keep trying, and we'll keep trying with the dogs too. And it's just it's it's fun to be able to know that I've done a little bit of good. Because I know what breeders. I mean, when we found the dilated cardiomyopathy, and I did a presentation at the Standard Schnauzer National, people said, "You don't know what this means," and I'm like, "Absolutely, I know what this means.
Yeah.
It means you don't have to cry about a young, promising dog just up and dying. You know, we can get around that, and you can keep all the good stuff, and just move on. So." Um, yeah, it's been pretty amazing ride, and I'm not done with it yet. So
Excellent. Well, you keep on keeping on, Liz. I love it.
okay, all right,
Thank you so
thanks.
much for joining us.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for asking.